the funeral service is on Friday, this Friday, at 3 o'clock. Very unfortunate that we opened the year with two homicides, and we know what it means to lose your loved ones under those tragic circumstances. So for those of you, the families of the two guys who lost their lives, we just want again to extend our sympathies and to tell you that you are in our prayers. On Friday also, Mr. Dangleben from Kinfield, that's Claudette Dangleben's dad, also Kerwin Dangleben, who at one point was our treasurer. He works as a port employee with DASPA Dominica Airport and Seaport Authority. He has since migrated to United Kingdom. So his dad passed. Dangleben was his dad. I again want to remember to extend our sympathies to his family and to tell Claudette and all the others that you are in our prayers. Last week we were discussing what we see as development. What are some of the things we see that we should tackle as a nation in 2022? We'll continue the discussion this evening because I realize that a number of people wanted to call and they did not get the opportunity. But before we continue the discussion, and even before I say what I was about to say, we just want to say hi to some special people. Sister Gillian Bartlett from Trinidad and Tobago, always viewing. I want to say hi to Carol up in the States. I'm Joelyn Charles, and a number of you, Mr. Shillingford from Salisbury, who is now in the United States, Raphael Joseph, and quite a bit of people, but at some point I will recognize the others. But we want to say hi to you all and our listeners here. I want to say a special good evening to a good friend of mine from Bellevue Shope, Franklin. How are you doing? He's a regular listener, and Franklin has been telling me that he enjoys the music. It's sort of relaxation for him. He enjoys the discussion. So Franklin, this evening, I want to say hi to you. And of course, we cannot forget Geraldine from Bellevue and all the others, Sister Lucille Smith, who I should have called Sister Lucille Smith, but for whatever reason, I did not get to doing it. So I am sorry, but you're always on my mind, and we are happy. I'm sure that you are tuning Spike from Newtown, Marjorie from Lubia, and a number of other people. It's always nice. Of course, we cannot forget our regular listener and viewer, Paula Lopin. How are you doing, my dear sister? Hope all is well with you. So, yes, the point I want to make before we get into the discussion is, and let me apologize for Brother Steve not being here with us this evening. He's not available, and I will be doing it. He's my co-host isn't here, Brother Steve Joseph, and I will be doing it all alone. I know Sister Smith always have concerns for me when I'm all by myself, but I'm all right, Sister, I'm safe. Something I want to talk about, and I believe as a union, we need to make a comment, or a statement rather, and that is people who would manifest signs and symptoms similar to COVID, but for some reason will not present themselves for testing. And I believe the reason behind that is out of fear that they might be sent to Portsmouth. So you may have somebody who is manifesting the signs and symptoms of the illness, but out of fear of being sent to Portsmouth where they will be quarantined, they stay at home and do not present themselves for testing. And some of them will not just stay at home, but they will mingle or interact with people. And I believe, I do not know how we as a country, how we are going to tackle this problem. But believe me, it is something that I have noticed, and I think something needed to be done as to how we can tackle that situation. It is something that the authorities and all of us would have to think of. If we believe that somebody might be infected, as neighbors, as friends, isn't it our responsibility at least to report that we suspect that this person may be infected with the COVID virus? But as I said, my friends, it is something that has been bothering my mind, because I have noticed that a number of people who may be positive are not presenting themselves for testing. And the only reason I can think of is out of fear that they might be sent to Portsmouth. What happens in the meantime? They place other people at risk. Not only are the members of their families, but other people from the community. So this is something I believe that is serious, and the matter needs to be given some level of attention. Getting back to, or continuing rather, with our topic from last week, I want here to quote a vice president of Zimbabwe, one who served for the period 1967 to 1970. And one of the things that he spoke about is to say that if we do not take our independence seriously, colonizers will come back to our respective countries using investment or under the guise of investors. And we cannot deny the fact that when we look at what is happening worldwide, especially in small countries, we are seeing elements of colonization. The gentleman is saying, and I quote, if we don't handle our independence very well, colonizers will come back in the form of investment. And that quotation is, as I said, from Zambia's vice president who served from 1967 to 1970. But I see we have a very early caller, so let me just take a break. We always give callers some level of priority. Okay, we have lost this caller. That was our overseas line. What is happening, my friends, is when we look at what is happening in a number of underdeveloped countries, we see that people are rapidly becoming less patriotic. They choose to close their eyes to the deterioration of human rights and democracy over political favors. Yeah, very serious thing. They can't be bothered about democracy. They cannot be bothered about human rights because of their interest in political favors. Let's take this one. Caller, good evening. Thank you for calling. You're on. Please go ahead.
Yes, good evening, Brother Lita. I don't know whether Steve Joseph is there with you, but good evening, Brother Lita, and I'm happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
And I think you start off the new year on a good topic.
Thank you.
Brother Lita, it's a very good topic to start off with the president of Zambia. Mm-hmm. Because, Brother Lita, what I'm seeing right now, I said I would ask you that question long ago. What I'm seeing right now in Dominica, what I want to ask is that can any ordinary citizen of Dominica take the Prime Minister to court for advising them to break the constitution of the country by telling them they don't need no opposition? Because to tell a citizen of a country that they don't need no opposition, when the opposition is part of the constitution, I would like to know if any citizen can take the Prime Minister to court, because I personally, I would like to challenge that matter in a court for my Prime Minister to tell me to abandon the opposition. Good evening and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, this is something that you can engage the advice of a legal person. Yes, the Prime Minister I didn't hear it myself, may have made that statement. But as to how the matter will stand in a court of law is something that I believe a lawyer would be in a better position to advise you on than myself. So I was saying that people are rapidly becoming less patriotic, and I'm not referring to Dominica alone, right? It is something, as I said, that is taking place in those countries with economies like ours. Denial of political and especially electoral reform might be an effort to ensure that the political parties or that other political parties are denied the chances to govern. Because if you are in power and something is working for you because you are in control, and I put that in quote, anything that you would do which would be right, which would be legal, and would put you at a point where you may lose an election, then you will find that the governing party or government will not want to do that. So we should not just look at electoral reform, the delay, the denial, as something that is just not happening. There are reasons behind that. And we need to be very active in continuing to call for electoral reform in Dominica. It appears that political parties or political power is too sweet and satisfying to be allowed to slip out of the hands of our regional leaders. It is a payment, or it is payment in your face for your votes. You are paid to vote, or you are paid for your vote, and many people have accepted that. I am not going to vote unless they pay me, and some of them even tell you how much money they want for their votes. And in a lot of instances, they will get what they want. It means snap elections. We have seen that before. So while constitutions may tell you that, or what they use is that period that tells you that once the House has been dissolved, election can be called within so many days. And what some leaders have done in the past is to call snap elections way ahead of the period or the date by which election will be constitutionally due. And that is in order to remain in power. It means blatant victimization of those who are perceived as not being supportive of a ruling regime. It means efforts to divide trade union members. Yes, that is a fact. And not only that, the management of certain statutory institutions extend their roles to playing politics and frustrating employees and the negotiation process. We cannot deny that. Even in our own country, Dominica, you have some managers of some statutory institutions who will do everything to frustrate the employees, to get them to leave their union. And they will do everything that they can think of to frustrate the negotiation process, which by law, or which is protected by law. And very sad indeed is the fact that some, and I repeat, some employees themselves, in spite of the good representation which they receive from their union, these parasites encourage their colleagues to withdraw their membership from the unions and being unable to give any good reason for doing so. It is a fact. So you are negotiating on behalf of all employees, but you have those who will just not join the union, and sometimes it's just because of the little subscription that they have to pay. And they will encourage their colleagues to leave the union, withdraw their membership. And they continue, both themselves and those who they have encouraged, they continue to benefit. They want the salary increase, they want the uniform allowance, they want the medical insurance, and they want everything that you can think of. They will benefit from the pension fund. You know, some of them will get their gratuity, or they will get their gratuity. And all these things are things that were negotiated by the union. But for whatever reason, and I've just cited maybe one of the reasons, is they are so mean that they will leave the union because of the little subscription that they pay every month. So we have to look at those things. The other thing I want to talk about when we speak about development is to look at the sustainable development goals, and to look at the 17 goals that Dominica has come up with, and what are we doing to ensure that we meet those goals, and at the same time the CBI funds that is supposed to be used to fund some of this project, which should ensure that we meet those goals. Let us spend a little time this evening looking at that. But I think I have a caller, and the person has stopped. So these are the things that we need to discuss as we speak of development in 2022. But let us pause and take our overseas line. Caller, good evening. Thank you for calling. Good evening, caller. Thanks for calling. All right, I'm not hearing that caller. We seem to have a little problem. Yes, so I was saying that, and I'm looking at the background of the Sustainable Development Goals, Voluntary National Review. And it states that, and I'm quoting, that the United Nations, through the 2030 Agenda, for Sustainable Development encourages member states to conduct regular and inclusive reviews of progress at the national and subnational levels, which are country-led and country-driven. These national reviews are expected to serve as a basis for the regular review of the high-level political forum convened under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council. Now, the Commonwealth of Dominica is scheduled to present its first voluntary national review in 2022, and a number of consultation in preparation of that report is being conducted, and the preliminary work will be used to inform the thematic areas of engagement for stakeholders consultation to follow in 2022. What are some of those goals? As I said, there are 17 of them. And the focus areas, or the 17 focus areas, are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, reduced inequality, climate action, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and lastly, partnerships to achieve the goal. So these are the focus areas. These are the things that we want to achieve in the next 30 years, right? And how poised are we as a country to achieve those things? Now, I would say that I see a number of projects which would assist in achieving those goals, and the authorities need to be complimented for some of the things they are doing. But is the process, and if we look at one, for example, we look at housing, and I've always said that while we have seen great improvements in housing, and nobody should deny that, we have seen great improvements in housing, but this distribution is where I see a problem, right? How do you go about selecting people? Now, if you have those focus areas and you're looking at the well-being of people, and housing is one of the areas, why should a parliamentary representative solely decide on who gets a house and who doesn't get? I mean, that cannot be right. I believe there should be some form of committee, some form of national committee consisting of various stakeholders, consisting of representatives from certain departments of government, to decide that after reviewing people's position, to decide whether they qualify for assistance, or whether they should not be helped in the future instead of now, and so on and so forth. So that is where the Ministry of Health would come in. That is where the Welfare Department would come in. That is where local government would come in, and other groups and organizations on that committee. When you look at the funds, the building of bridges and so on, and making certain areas safe, looking at our climate, we speak about the dredging of rivers. Yes, we saw a lot of that was done following the passage of Hurricane Maria. But if you drive throughout Dominica, you will see that our rivers are rapidly, I'm not even using the word gradually, rapidly disappearing. Because you have elephant grass growing in the center, just not center, but have just taken over the riverbeds. And what is it that we are doing to protect the fishes, to ensure that our children will be able to have a river bath, that people visiting Dominica, a country where we have boast that we have 365 rivers, but there are some of those rivers that are just inaccessible. People cannot get to them because, as I said, elephant grass has taken over. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, take a drive past Anchorage Hotel and you will see Live Canary. I think that's how I know it. And you hardly see any sign of water in that river. You continue going south, and when you reach at the point, at the location of the Lubia Chapel, you will see another example of what I'm talking about. That is not all. Continue past Lubia, and you're now heading to Grand Bay. And you are on that first bridge. That's where they build the Bailey Bridge, I think that's how they refer to it. That is another example. The place is covered with elephant grass. You continue your drive and you reach up Snug Corner. Another example again. You have not even traveled 2 miles and see the number of rivers I have pointed to you. Or it might be the same river but different section in some instances. And you continue going south. And when you reach in Pishley, you will see another example of what I'm talking about. 2 rivers in the village, and both of them have been taken over by elephant grass. And we are talking about climate change. And, I cannot talk about elephant grass in the Pishley rivers without also saying that the residents of that village continue to be at risk. And I am wondering whether it is not a punishment for whatever reason. A lot of things are going through my mind. I will not talk about these things because I have no proof that it is so. But why would you continue 4 years after a hurricane where the river took over the village, running in the middle of the village, entered some people's houses, washed away houses. And we have come to the conclusion that because of a pillar in the center of the river, one of the rivers, that was the reason. We have done everything possible. We have written to PALREP. We have requested meetings. And let me just take this opportunity to wish him happy birthday in spite of neglecting us and not taking us on as far as the river is concerned. But let me wish him happy birthday. And this is a problem. If we are talking about development, we have to make communities safer. And we have to involve the residents. If I was a PAL rep representing that area, I would have come to the people, have some discussion with them, listen to their concerns, especially after they would have invited me. Listen to their concerns as to what can be done, what cannot be done, and we arrive at a decision, at an agreement. Because God forbid if there is another disaster like Maria, some people may be washed away. Because one of the problems in that village also is the fact that we have no hurricane shelter. Absolutely no hurricane shelter. So you're in the middle of two rivers. And one of the things that have contributed to that level of danger is the fact that the apartments that have, because of the development that has taken place in Bellevue, Chope, which is to the north of Pishley, all debris, all wastewater finds itself in that valley and creates a risk to the residents of Pishley. I feel so sorry for them. Well, I reside here too, but sometimes when I think of what is happening to my people, I feel very, very sorry. And I feel sad. But we have to continue that cry, and I'm doing it, I'm saying it. I don't care who gets vexed, I don't care who is mad with me. It is a fact that something can be done, and for whatever reason. We have written to the Pal Rep, we have copied the letter to the Prime Minister, and nothing is being done about the situation. So friends, if we're talking about development, people's concerns have to be addressed. You may not be able in every instance to do what they want you to do, but you have to continue. The question of gender equality is something that we have to think of seriously, and we cannot leave out women, men, girls, and boys to ensure, not only saying that they should enjoy the same human rights, but to ensure that they do, and that they all have equal opportunities, equal access, and control over resources. And very, very important, participation in decisions making. It is one thing to have it on paper, but in reality, are we involving stakeholders in decision making? Clean water and sanitation. We recognize that a lot of money has been spent in water resources over the period 2016 to 2019. And as I said, funds have been used to dredge rivers, but the rivers need a cleanup. I will pause as we take a call from someone here. Caller, good evening. Thanks for calling.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm holding on there. I'm all right.
All right. Well,
I'm just listening to your topic, but I hear you telling somebody happy birthday. Who's it you telling birthday happy birthday?
My pal rep.
Who's that?
But you know my pal rep is Dr. Daru.
Today's his birthday?
Well, I saw some people sending greetings to him on Facebook, so I guess today might be his birthday.
Ella. You have more guts than cat guts. Anyway, I'm listening.
All right. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, more goats than cat's goats.
But before
I've made up my mind to live in memory of the lonesome time.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for calling.
Happy New Year to you, Mr. Later.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
And good evening to all the hardworking men and women of Dominica. Mr. Later, you made a very important observation there in the commencement of your program with regards to electoral reform, etc., and the government of the day. No, based on how the voting situation is in Dominica right now, that they will be there forever and ever until electoral reform is implemented. But Mr. Later, we all know that anytime Roosevelt Skerrit led administration would implement electoral reform, etc., sanitize the voters list, etc., there will be no more, Mr. Leader. This cannot do it. This lame government for 22 years. Dominica have gone back 100 years under this cannot do it government. Mr. Leader, with regards to the housing project that was built in Belleville Chopin, based on what I was told, Mr. Layton, is that prior to they putting down the structures, they got advice that based on the soil type, it is not, it will not be good. And they still went ahead and do it for the simple reason they're just trying to prove like, oh, we're building houses. It's not about building houses. It's building houses in safe environment, Mr. Layton. I mean, I really don't know what I don't know what to say about the people of Dominica with regards to that kind of leader they have. And I'm hearing again, Mr. Layton, I'm not sure if that is true. That last night, Mr. Layton, Roosevelt Skerrit's son crashed one of the GA. I'm not too sure if what we're hearing is true, Mr. Layton. But son for Roosevelt Skerrit, does he work for the government, Mr. Layton? Is he a government employee based on what you know? That is Malik for Skerrit. Is he a government employee? Mr. Layton, if that is true, what the people of Dominica are prepared to do with that? I mean, how the hell this guy could go ahead and crash a GA taxpayer's vehicle, Mr. Layton? What is going on island, Mr. Layton? Take care now.
All right, Color, thank you. Well, I'm hearing it like you, so I am not in a position to really comment. I think the police should at least issue a statement as to what happened and if it is true. But for now, I really cannot say it is a fact, but I have read it. So let's just hope that it is not true. But as to whether he's an employee of the state, not that I know of, my friend. All right, so let's just continue with that little song here.
So I'll just live my life in dreams of yesterdays. Those happy hours that we once knew. Though long ago, it still made me blue. They say that time heals a broken heart, but time has stood still since we've been apart. Made up my mind to live in memories of the lonesome time. It's useless to say, so I'll just live my life in dreams of yesterdays. Those happy hours that we once knew. Though long ago, said I made up my mind to live in memories of the lonesome time. Sing the song, children. It's useless to say, so I'll just live my life of dreams of yesterday.
A very beautiful song indeed, and I'm sure that song, many of you may have gone through that experience, where you only have to dream of yesterday and you do not spend all your time concentrating on the past. Yes, so let's get back to our discussion. So we have a long way to go, my friends. We have a lot of things to do. We have to be united as a country, and we cannot always wait until Christmas, Easter, independence celebrations to talk about unity, to talk about unification. No, it has to be an ongoing thing. We have to demonstrate that we are willing, in spite of our political, religious, and other differences, to work together. How can a country like Dominica really make it if we continue to be divided? And if we continue to be selfish, not caring about what is happening nationally because we think of self. I think of me. It is my, and everything else is placed on the back burner. We cannot continue that trend, my friend. Too much talk. We need to do things. Caller, good evening. Thank you for calling. Good evening, caller. Thanks for calling. All right, we have lost that caller. Please try again. Yes, so we have, what are we, how often do we review programs, national programs, so that we can make changes, we can adjust as time goes by. Good evening, caller. Thank you for calling.
Mr. Litter, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Happy New Year to you, my friend, you and your organization.
Thank you.
Yes, you and
same to
every
you.
other PSU members.
Thanks.
And I hope that this year will be a very, very rewarding and, successful one for you all.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Mr. Litter, when you have a child and you continuously telling the child to behave, and the child is not hearing, what do you resort to?
Well, you administer some level of punishment.
A level of punishment, either with a strap or a whip,
or you deprive him or her of something.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but in most cases, parents take a strap or a whip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And spank them.
Our West Indian culture, yes.
Yes, or you spank them.
Mm-hmm.
We have a government that's behaving like a child that doesn't hear at all, a child that doesn't behave. So the amount of talking that has gone through Mr. Little on radio stations.
That's true.
Calling on the government to behave itself, Mr. Little. But the big child is not hearing, Mr. Little.
Mm-hmm.
The big child is not hearing, so it's time to spank the government.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to spank that child. Led by a spoiled leader, a spoiled child himself. So it's time to spank. It's time to spank the government, and it's not only the PSU who has to do it, but organizations as the PSU, okay, DAIC, and other such organizations should take the lead for others to follow. I'm not sure as to whether you agree with me, right? But something has to happen because, Mr. Later, I can tell you. I mean, this year is not going to be sweet, you know. It's not going. You know what China is doing. You know what China is doing to the country.
Yep.
Taking their property because the country cannot pay them back. And
Yes.
these are places that have organized military, you know, Mr. Lisa. We have nothing in Dominica to stop China from taking over Dominica. Caused by one spoiled child. Caused by one spoiled child. And his followers at the back. They can do nothing to him. But there's only one spoiled child. So it's time to spank that spoiled child, Mr. Lisa. It's time to spank him with his shirt off his back and his pants down from his body. Have a good night.
Thank you, caller. A little serious discussion, but a little humor in that. But as I said, we need to take things more seriously. I want to compliment NJAM for coming on board. I listened to the interview with the chairman of NJAM. So I hope that it is a new call, a new awakening for the country. And I agree with you, caller, that we need to take things seriously and that 2022 may not be what a number of people expect it to be. And you are right when you say that we have been talking and talking and talking. It's a lot of talks on the talk shows, in statements, and so on. The thing, though, is some of the organizations that should be calling, that should be doing certain things, are they doing it? We'll pause here and we welcome our overseas caller. Good evening, sir.
Good night to you, sir, and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. I wish you the same, my brother.
Yeah. So let's hear you say something tonight, and you are so right. People want to get paid for the vote. So that is what they call bribery on a vote. It's illegal to pay for votes. And this habit of paying for votes came into our system and is really running our elections. That is very dangerous to the system and to our people, because since you pay somebody low that they can pay by votes, there is no reason to perform their role as government. They can keep the people poor, keep them hungry all for 4.5 years, and on the 5th year, get money and start buying votes. So I think we have to take more seriously. The courts give them a pass, the justice system, because when the government were being made to pay for bribery and cheating, they were able to put out the case from the court system. So I think we have to make it a public campaign to help us to understand that their votes have no monetary value. So I'm really happy you mentioned tonight, but it has to be a major campaign on that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you, caller. Yes, you're right. I think there are certain things we just take too lightly. And I believe we have to develop other strategies to make sure that people are aware of the issues, whether they are negative issues, whether they are positive things that are happening in the country. There must be something to educate people more about those issues. Electoral reform, this whole question of the sustainable development goals, how many Dominicans really understand what that is all about. And the list goes on and on and on and on, right? Even our young people, do they spend time educating themselves about those things, researching, There are a lot of things I believe that we need to embark. And I say we, because I think at the end of the day, as somebody said earlier on, there are certain things that we can only achieve if we come together. And I believe the time has come when we should have more campaigns looking at some of the things we believe that should be happening in our country, some of the things that are not good, and also looking at the positive things as well. Let me take this caller. Thanks for calling and good evening to you.
Good night, Mr. Later.
Hi, my dear.
Very down a little bit. Later, do you know the enemy of this world?
If I don't know the enemy of?
Of this world.
No. Tell me.
You don't know. Well, the most powerful nation on earth is America. In God we trust. And China trying the best to dismantle this world. Do you know about the germ warfare?
I read a little about that.
Well, it started from China. The world suffering now from China. Germ warfare, the whole world suffering right now. I think the whole world should take China to court. That's all about it.
All right, caller, thank you for your input. Caller, good evening. Thank you for calling.
Good evening, my brother Later.
My brother, how are you?
I'm good, I'm fine. And brother Steve is not there with you, but I still would like to wish you guys the best for the new year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Including all the people from Salisbury too.
Right, thanks.
But brother Later, you start the program on a serious note.
Right.
In that you was talking about some people might have some symptoms where they believe it's COVID and they are afraid to go and get tested.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say about that, brother Later, it's very serious because when you say you sick, you might go through your thing, but when you have the ability to affect other people, that's what the problem is.
Correct.
Because, for example, if I have AIDS or any other disease, and I know I'm displaying the symptoms, right? And I go and interfere with somebody or go react with people, and they get it. But later, they could sue me for that.
Yes.
And that is the reason why I believe our government, well, not this one guy, I don't expect nothing good from them, but our government needs to go to parliament a little more often, because the first job of our government is to keep people safe. Because if you're not safe, you're not healthy, nothing else, job, money, nothing else will come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just say that to say that people have to take this serious. If you know you're sick or you're displaying, don't be scared, because you have the ability to affect other people innocently. You know what I mean? And I don't know the laws are that good because I'm not a lawyer, but I know up here, if you willfully knowing that or displaying symptoms and you're going to affect, they can sue you for everything you got. So I would like to comment on that. But the next subject you bring up is the reference you talk about the guy from West Africa. We're talking about our independence. Yeah, and that too is important. But what is more important for me, brother Later, is our democracy. You see, we could have different political views, different point of views, different ideology, different ways to do things, and we could debate that. That is a separate issue. But when the fundamental right to associate, like to join the union, is taken from you, to elect your own representative is taken from you. Your freedom of speech is, but the issue is way bigger than what I believe most Dominicans not realizing, and that is because I have my political side, and I always say, brother Later, I know that the afraid of debate. Bring your plans, we bring our plans, and let the best person, when I don't have a problem with that, once it is fair, it's honest, it's just, we all will know it's best for Dominica, we don't rally behind it. And that is why I think it's not only our independence alone But our way of life, our democratic way of life, where everybody's treated equally, because you also mentioned about the distribution of housing, which housing is a good thing for those that cannot afford or those less fortunate and so, but you cannot victimize people in that process because they don't support you and you know the need, and somebody that support you don't need it, they have the house and they extend the rent, and you know that is not just, Brother Leighton. That is why we have to come together and understand that we all have a right to live a peaceful life without fear. You could view your point, you disagree with me, but that doesn't mean I have to hate you all. As you say, we all are one is about Dominica, and then we will deal with the political issues, which party or which group of people that is best suited to run the affairs of the country for the next 5 years. That's a completely different thing. But if we don't have a democratic system, Brother Leighton, we won't have a union. Correct. The churches will suffer. The political parties will suffer. You know? So I just wish all of us recognize we are one Dominican. God didn't make all of us the same way, so we all have a right to think differently. We have to respect each other. And let the best person with it, because we want the best of us to take care of the rest of us. But what's going on in Dominica right now is the worst of us taking care of the rest of us, Brother Leighton. I expecting nothing good. You also talk about electoral reform, and it goes back to our democracy, how strong it is. The people have a right to be informed, to participate, because if we don't have those strong institutions, and you also mentioned about the 17 things we're trying to achieve. You know, hunger, poverty. That is why I always tell you, Brother Leighton, one of the roles I believe the union has to pay up a little more attention to is the way how the country resources are spent and disbursed. Because the resources supposed to spend for everybody equally. It don't belong to me, it don't belong to you, it don't belong to Skerrit or Linton or nobody. It belongs to Dominica. So that is one thing I always say, the union should pay more attention to the resources of the country, because when your workers need a raise, I cannot take the money and do what I want and then tell you I could only give you 1% or I could give you 2%. You know, so again, you know, always in solidarity with you. Happy New Year, my brother.
Thank you.
And I listening. I know you got some shilling for the overseas. I say, I hope it's not me.
It was you.
It was me.
I agree with you. I heard it, but I was just hoping it was somebody else, because my greetings always like to go to Salisbury, because there are a lot of people Salisbury that work hard, Brother Leighton. Honest people that never get in trouble with the law, and today is a whole different situation, and that's where my heart is, in Salisbury. So thank you so much. And you know, I always listen to. I was early, you know. I tried to call you, but I didn't want to call too early and mess up your program. All right. No problem. I just want.
But plenty love and all the best for the new year, and stay strong. And I like how you start that program, that show for the new year, Brother Leighton. That is what I'm talking about. Honesty, transparency, our democratic party politics. That's what I said. Is a whole. I don't know why people mixing this two up. You know, party politics is one thing, but the affairs of the country, all of us have to be concerned about it. But I talk too much, Brother Leighton. Thank you so much. I'm listening.
I just want to tell you, I have some relatives in Salisbury. There are some people from Salisbury whose parents really came from Pishley, like the John Joes. You have a couple of Scotlands, and you know, these people are really related to me, some of them. So one of those good days, I promised to go down to Salisbury and just to meet some of the people. I've been talking about that for the longest while, but I've not had the time to do it. But I do have some relatives in Salisbury.
Dominica, Brother Leighton, situation we in, what point of view we have, we all have to come together and know our problem right now is our democratic system, the way of life. Our justice system, the electoral system, our governance. This is the issue we have to fix before we I don't see we going nowhere if we don't fix those issues, brother, later.
Well said.
Anyway,
yeah, well
you know, I was listening to you. Sometimes I don't like to call, but it was some good topic, and I still.
Okay, my brother. Thank you, and
yeah, thank you.
Take care. All right, take care.
All right, take care. You too.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, that's love, man. That's love indeed. Fall to pieces. You know, one of the things we have been talking about for years and years and years, and according to our local Pat was saying, depuis Coctenidan is agro-processing. And if we are talking about development and we want to eradicate poverty, we want to make life easy for people, you know, we want to make life easy economically or financially. People can take care of themselves. We have not been paying enough attention to agro-processing. Following the passage of Hurricane Maria, did we ever embark on some tree crop rehabilitation project, for example? I'm not talking about a few hundred citrus plants, that you cannot even get because the agricultural extension officers do not have any leverage as to who gets or who doesn't get. So they produce the planting material, but in most instances, it is the political directorate that determines who get. So they will just come on maybe on a weekend, and I'm aware that is what is happening. They will come on a weekend and will take all the available planting material. And you who have been making contact with the agricultural department and you have been told by the extension officer that your name is listed for assistance, you don't get it. We need to allow public officers to do what they are supposed to do. I am not saying that as a PAL rep, you cannot, if somebody comes to you and you can use your influence to get the person to get some fertilizer or whatever it is. I am not saying that should not be done. But you cannot do it based on a political, because of politics. Because at the end of the day, let me say something. My understanding is that in some countries where people have membership in political parties, certain assistance that they need, because a lot of those parties have a lot of funds, a lot of resources. The party will assist the supporter. The party, and mark you, the party will assist the supporter. But when it comes to state funds, it is a different kettle of thing, right? It is a different matter altogether. And I do not believe it is fair that when materials or when assistance is being given, that you look at it from a political point of view. That is wrong. If you want to make sure that it's only your supporters that get assistance, then use your party funds to do that. It cannot be the state funds. The state funds, as one of the callers said earlier on, is for everybody, for every citizen of this country. And we have to begin to speak in those tones and languages, because it is not right. And the more we remain silent on certain things, I was listening to somebody it was a very good point. If all of us, we are afraid to say what is wrong, and not only say what is wrong, as I always say, when it is right, say it is right. I started that program, or somewhere in the program earlier on, I said about what I see as good things, the housing, the this, the that, and so on, right? But when it comes to the housing, my problem is it fair? I come from an area where I personally believe that some people who should have been assisted with housing, they have not been assisted. And there are some people who could have waited a little longer. For example, let me give you an example. Why would somebody who had a house and the house was damaged by the hurricane has not received assistance? But you would have somebody who, up to the passage of the hurricane, was living with his parents, still very young, actively employed, getting a salary every month, at the end of every month. But those people were given houses over those who are not working, and in some instances, who still up to now, 4 years after the hurricane, still have to be living at somebody's home. I mean, that cannot be fair. That cannot be fair. So while we talk about housing and apartments and so on, one of the questions is, who are the recipients of those houses, of those apartments? What is wrong? Why certain people have not been helped? And it's promises after promises after promises that they will receive and they are not getting. You understand what I'm talking about? So these are the things one has to talk about. So yes, the housing is good. We have to compliment the government housing project. And they have done a fantastic job in providing houses for Dominicans. But some in a lot of instances, the houses have gone to the wrong person. We have to be balanced. And as I said, agro-processing is an important area, right? We talk about the NEP, National Employment Program. What was the intention of what was the intention of that program? And as a union, we have been talking about it very, very early from the beginning. You have a number of people. While we talk about employment for young people, and it should just be a temporary thing, let me say to you, we have people who, in their 60s, and they're still part of the National Employment Program, they are employed, You You have a number of people, a number of businesses, my friend, who can afford to employ people. But you know what is happening? They are getting assistance under the National Employment Program. My understanding is that in a lot of instances, they should be contributing also, making a contribution to that person's wage. And I have further understand that in a lot of instances, all the people receive is what is provided under the National Employment Program. And that is something that needed to be investigated. So, for example, as I said, I don't know how true it is, but that is my understanding. If the National Employment Program contributes, say, $500 to somebody working with some business places, that is all you get. The business itself does not make a contribution to your wage, or does not contribute to your wage or to your salary. And those things cannot be right, my friend. We have to look at those things very, very seriously. So it's not a matter of just criticizing, but we are saying those things, and in a lot of instances, we need more information, we need clarification on those matters. So we want people to understand what is it that we are saying, and I agree with an earlier somebody who called earlier on and said that the trade union matter. We have to look at the resources of the country, how the resources are being utilized. It is our business, because at the end of the day, we negotiate for salaries and other things.
You sheltered me from harm, kept me warm, kept me warm. You gave my life to me, set me free, set me free. The finest years I ever knew is all the years I have with you, and I would give anything I own, give up my life, my heart, my own, and I would give anything I own just to have you back again. Is there someone you know that won't let you go, and taking it all for granted? You may lose them one day, someone takes them away, and you don't hear a word they say. And I would give anything I own, give up my life, my heart, my own, and I would give anything I own just to have you back again, just to talk to you words again. If there's someone you know that won't let you go, and take heart my own, and I would give anything I own just to have you back again, just to talk to you words again, just to hold you once again.
Well, I'm sure you are enjoying the music, you're enjoying those beautiful songs, taking us back in time. And as I said, my good partner up in Bellevue, Chopin Franklin, I think Dennis is the surname. You know, yes, I think so. But Franklin, I'm sure you must be enjoying those songs, my friend. And tonight I couldn't forget you. It's months and months and months I am supposed to hail you up on that program, but for some reason it always slips me. But this evening I made sure that I remember to say hello to you. So I hope you enjoy. And I always, as you said, you are tuning every Wednesday from 6:30 to 8. You know, there are some people who tell me they do nothing around that time. But I play those music hoping that you could have a cup of tea and you can enjoy the program while you are sipping a cup of tea or sipping some red wine or whatever it is. So it is not just to educate, but it is to make sure that you relax. And I believe the kind of music that we play on this program, as Franklin said to me, it is appropriate because it is time for relaxation. And having some serious talk and discussion. We have 11 more minutes left before we wrap it up. So if you want to make a comment, you can call us at 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, and 616-4257. But our overseas line is 305-439624. I also want to inform you that you can follow us on YouTube also. So we are going places. We have seen that the number of viewers have been rapidly increasing. So people are very interested in this program. And we will continue to have this program every Wednesday, 6:30, God's willing, because the response has been good, and you cannot abandon people when they participate, when they are appreciative, and when they contribute, and when they also educate us. It is a two-way thing. We educate, you educate. So we learn from each other. And I believe one of the things we should say to ourselves for 2022 is whatever fear you may have, please, for the sake of country and for the sake not only of yourself but generations to come, let us put fear behind us and let us speak to the issues. Let us speak to the issues that affect us as a country. And let us do so without any fear. Let us do so regardless as to whether because of our comments, we are opening ourselves to some wolves out there. No, by now, we should have gotten accustomed to that and know that in any country, there are those who have to make the sacrifice. Are you one of the people? Are you one of them who is prepared to make the sacrifice by speaking out your mind? You cannot be big. Husband, wives, grown up, employer, employee, educated, and you're afraid to speak. You should not be afraid to speak, my friend. At the end of the day, you are the one who decide who governs this country. And you cannot, I repeat, and I want to say it loud and clear, you cannot be the one determining who becomes a minister. You are the one who determines who becomes a minister, you know. You are the one who determines who becomes prime minister of this country, you know. And there are so many things that you determine because of your vote, and yet still you are afraid. A politician should be regarded as your servant, a glorified servant. That's what a politician is, and not your master. So what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? These are the same people who will humble themselves, sit on your step, and if you offer them, while they will not eat at people's home, some of them, that is, but in order to win your vote, they will forget that pride. I know politicians who will not eat at people's home, who will not drink at people's home. But come election time, if you give them banana with only oil, you can ponche, but you can manger, because you will vote too. After they win, why should you be afraid of them? Why should you be afraid to tell them it is wrong when you see it is wrong? But at the same time, when it is right, say it is right. When it is good, say it is good. You cannot be fearful of man, my friend. The only being you should be fearful of is God. You should only be fearful of God. But when it comes to man who has breath like you, who does everything like you, who has to eat and sleep and breathe like you, who has to go to the washroom, use the toilet, clean himself after he's done like you, and maybe, boy, that is God. God is a wonderful God, you know, because God ensures that no matter who you are in this world, whether president, whether prime minister, whether pope, no matter what you are, at the end of the day, my friend, when you use that toilet, you have to do the cleanup. And one of the things that man has not been able to do is to develop a machine or something where after using the washroom, you don't have to use your hand to clean yourself. I am sure some people, if they see that happen, they would be happy. But for now, you have to do it yourself. Because when nature calls, and you have to release yourself, you have no choice when you are done than to use your 5 fingers and do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. You know, I remember as little boys, you know, growing up, little children, when we think of priest, you know, being 3 years, 4 years, you would say, boy, the priest doesn't, in our own little part where we say poo-poo, he doesn't defecate. You know, because, you know, in those days you saw a priest as being so holy and whatever, so you could not imagine as a little boy growing up in your community that the priest uses the washroom. You could not associate a priest with that. But thank God, up to this point, no matter how great you are, you have to do it. Why are you afraid of man? Caller, thank you for calling. Good evening to you.
Yeah, too much sugar coating, man. Say it as it is. It's eat, sleep, and shit.
Say it again. Hello? Yeah, caller told me do not sugarcoat it. Yes. So they eat. what I even forget how we said it. Yes, caller, but sometimes when you're on the radio, you have to be a little more diplomatic and a little, you know what I mean, man. You know what I mean. I mean, these are things I know I can use it anytime, but when you're on air, you have to be a little more polite, yeah? Yes, man. Yeah, so we almost coming to the end of our program, and it has really been good having all of you listen to us this evening, and we have to begin to get ready to get out of this studios. All right.
See me in my heels and ting. Them checks say we hip and ting. True them no know and ting. We have them going and ting. Nah pop, no style. All strictly roots. Nah pop, no style.
Okay, friends, that's where we are wrapping it up for the evening. Our first program for 2022. We pray that with God's grace, His mercies, He will allow us to continue. He will give us long life and put us in a position where we can continue to do what we are doing. We want to thank you for being part of this program over the years. I can't remember exactly how many years we have been doing it. We started at Kyrie, and then some years ago we moved on to Q95, and we are very happy at Q95. So you have been calling. I think this program is becoming popular day by day. I know in the Caribbean, some of our trade union brothers and sisters, they have been encouraged by what we do, and some of them have started similar programs in their countries. So we encourage many people to do it because it is a way of keeping in touch, not only with your members, but with the public. I'm going to take this last caller. Caller, you have 30 seconds, and let's wrap it up. Good evening to you.
Thank you so very much. Good evening to you. Good evening to your listeners. I want to say Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
And your listeners. And I also want to express my personal condolences to you on the passing of Lillian Rodney, who was a personal friend of mine. I want to wish you, your union, and the Commonwealth of Dominica all the best. And I want to say thank you so much for service rendered to people and country. God bless.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you. I want to wish you the same also. God's blessing, good health, and prosperity. Thank you so much. I do appreciate, and I also appreciate the condolences expressed by you on the passing of my cousin. She was one of my favorite cousins. I can say that to you. We had a very, very good relationship. My mother was her aunt, and her dad was my uncle. And on Friday, God's willing, she will be laid to rest. So those of you who knew Lillian Rodney, she lived at Belfast, and who can attend the funeral, please do. We will really appreciate that you attend. Thank you, and may God bless each and every one of you until we meet again next week, God's willing, of course. Thank you so much, and take care of yourselves.
Take responsibility.
All right, my friends, so that is it. We are leaving now. Thank you for being part of us, and take care.